Well, all right, here we are once again. I'm Pastor B, and we're here at the kitchen table. And I welcome you back to the kitchen table. You know that it's called the kitchen table because this is the place we break it down, chop it up, and deal with serious issues. For this past month, I've been dealing with the issue of education because education is certainly going through shifts and turns and dips and drives. And I'm so glad today to have a great guest with us today. I have Assistant Principal Moore with us today. Sister Moore, will you say hello to the audience and tell us who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Moore. I am a woman of God first. By way of profession, I started out as an ELA teacher for about 15 years. This school year will be my 25th year in education, my fifth year as an assistant principal. So the journey has been amazing. It is my pleasure to serve the community, to serve our students. So that's a little bit of who I am, and thank you for having me today.
Amen. Principal Moore, I'm so glad to have you, and you have great experience, great depth. Of course, I've got a very simple question to begin with, and that is, why did you become an educator? Why a teacher?
When I was younger, I would play with my cousins. When I would come home from school, I would teach my brother. So my mom automatically knew I was going to be a teacher. And I just kind of just fostered that throughout my years in education. And I thought education would be the best way to go. I was always either reading a book or writing. And so I knew, I just followed my heart, and God led me to my purpose.
Amen. So tell us, what school are you the assistant principal at? Where is it located?
Yes, I am the assistant principal at Gregory Lincoln Education Center. It's in Houston ISD, and we are located in historic 4th Ward.
Amen. That's so great, in the 4th Ward area.
Yes.
Of course, I want to hear it from you. 2020, what was it like for you, your school, your students in 2020?
Wow, 2020 was just, it came in like a whirlwind. I don't think any of us were prepared for what was to come. There were some pros and cons along with the shift that COVID-19 brought us. I'll start with the pros first. For the pros, it made us more tech savvy. I mean, everybody had to be more tech savvy now. We had to just like really lean on technology, and that changed the way we taught, that changed the way we worship, that changed the way we went to the doctor. It changed everything about our world. And so now, here we are in 2021, we see that things are slowly getting back to normal. Some of the cons is that the virtual world kind of made us very lazy, because now it seems like we don't want to go back to normal, even though we know it's time. We're hesitant. I could see in our students, there was a big shift. We already had some significant gaps to close prior to COVID-19, and now the gaps have widened 2 years down the road here. So, it behooves us now to get our kids back in school, back in the classrooms, but we want to make sure everyone's safe first. And so that's where we are. 2020, I'll never forget it. Out of all of my years of education, I'll never forget 2020.
Yeah, one of the comments that I've heard from parents and grandparents is that, what's going to happen to my child trying to make up for the lost time from last year?
So here we are, and that's a great question. And I want parents to feel confident and feel supported in knowing that school districts have already begun working to give additional support. There's additional funding out there for school districts to be able to provide whatever support they need, specifically in the areas of reading and math. We know that there are significant gaps there. And so our goal is to, as when students return to school, is to give hard, intensive tier 1 instruction. That's the first taught instruction. It has to be rigorous, so that we don't want to just spend our time intervening, but we want our kids to get that quality tier 1 instruction first. And then we can begin to close the gaps at the same time through intervention. So just know, once you send your kids to us, we're ready, willing, and able to serve them and get them to where they need to be.
You know, that was a comment you made earlier related to when some children were at home during 2020, how they had to not only be a student, they'd also be a caretaker of their sibling. Can you explain that a little bit, please?
Well, here we were able, of course, our district used Microsoft Teams, and we noticed, a couple of kids had their cameras on, and one thing that resonated with me, and as a result of families having to endure this shift with maybe the loss of jobs, or not even the loss of a job, but maybe just like not the regular hours that they're used to getting and working. And so parents could no longer afford daycare. So many of our students who were virtual students were also there taking care of younger siblings who, of course, probably in a normal setting would be at daycares. And so parents were trying to save save their money so that they could take care of their families. And we just wanted to make sure that as the district, we would lend our support. And so, HISD, Dr. Granita Lathan, who's our interim superintendent right now, she was able to make sure that every student was able to have a device. And so in HISD, we were just very fortunate to be able to serve our students and their families in that capacity.
Oh, that is awesome. Are you saying that, being out here in the suburbs versus where you're located in the historic Fourth Ward. And I want you to address, because I'm always concerned about all our children, not just the kids who are at our church or in the suburb, but the children who may have resource challenges. You as an administrator, how do you address those issues when children come from families or different demographics in which there's an issue regarding resources? In other words, some things they may be able to get to assist their educational process in some parts of the city may not be in other parts of the city. So how do you address that?
Well, because the majority, the campuses that I've worked in my entire career have been Title I campuses. So there was always either funding for the additional support. We even began to network with various business partners who were, was able to give us technology, who just were looking to spend money to help our students. And so we began to network, we began to have a conversation, and we noticed that there were plenty of businesses, plenty of people ready to give, so that every student in our schools would be able to be supported, will be able to have the opportunity to learn. And I think that's what it's all about, the community coming together. Churches, businesses, whoever it was, we were all able to come together to make sure that our students did not lose a beat.
Yeah. What's the plan? What's your plan, Principal Moore, about regathering? How will you regather? Because if the students were scattered for a year, 15 months, whatever it may have been, and now you're trying to regather them because 2021 is here. What does that process look like? What's regathering look like?
Well, we've already started the process of making sure that we contact families that we haven't heard from. We've been doing that the entire year. A lot of our school in particular feeds into 4 homeless shelters. And so we were always a revolving door. So we always had to make sure that we were in connection with our parents. Anytime our parents came in, we wanted to make sure that we had the right working phone numbers, email addresses, to be able to give them that support. If we can't reach them, we can't teach them. And so we made every effort to make sure that we contacted every parent. We even had surveys where we had to ask our parents what their needs were so that we can begin to meet them, not only as a campus, but as a district.
Wow, that is awesome. That's kind of like I want to call it old school. When I grew up, the instructors cared about the totality of our lives, not just that moment, that first, second, third, fourth, fifth period, but how our families were doing, how we were doing, what we're eating, the whole gamut. And I'm hearing some of that because I'm thinking to myself that if you're instructing children who many were in the homeless shelters. That's a different dynamic, or that's a different
Correct.
child. But yet that child still deserves the right to be educated, to learn, to grow, and to be all that God meant for him to be. So
Correct.
how do you, as a certain assistant principal and also your staffing, how do you ensure that you have the right team to accomplish that?
Well, you know, with these changing times, there are a lot of things we have to change, Pastor Hamilton, and one of those being are our hiring practices. You want to make
Mm,
sure that on campuses you hire a network of passionate, caring professionals. When it comes to, yeah, before I can even teach you, before you can even concentrate on the content, I need to know that your basic needs are met. Like, hey, have you eaten? Do you
yeah.
have a sufficient clothes? Are you keeping up with your hygiene? And so particularly at our campus, we have what we call the Panther Caring Corner, and it's fully stocked with uniforms, jackets, coats, underwear, everything, toiletries, everything kids need to
Wow.
be successful. And so we're able to get and in addition, you know, more business partners began to hear. They're bringing in more donations, and so there's never not a time when our Panther Caring Corner is busting out of the seams. With thanks to the YMCA, and we have other business partners with Crestwood, and we're getting a new business partner also with the Alliant Group. So we're just like really thankful and blessed that we're able to support all of our kids on campus.
Man, that is an awesome deal. We call that holistic ministry.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you're doing holistic. I love to hear that, because one thing that I would like for you to address for a moment, or for those individuals who are watching and they're considering going into education, they're considering being
Yes,
a teacher, or perhaps they want to be an
yes.
administrator one day, but they're a little bit afraid because of the times we're in, and so many
Mhm.
times the education process gets so much negative publicity. How would you address it? How would you speak into the life of that man or that woman that's watching online right now?
And I'm so glad you say that, because here I am 25 years later, older,
Yeah, yeah.
wiser. And of course, when I started in the classroom 25 years ago, things were very different. Now, you know, if I had to give some advice to those coming in, those who wanting to be in the profession, it has to be in your heart. This
Hmm.
is we are talking about children's lives. We're not just talking about using education as a stepping stone to somewhere else. We
Yeah.
would like to see the longevity of educators as we did in the past. We don't see them so much anymore, but it has to be your passion, your purpose. You have to hunger. Once you get in there, Pastor Hamilton, and you meet those children, and if you have any kind of heart, you know that's where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I will give those educators who are starting to come into the profession, study hard, hone your craft, make sure that you're ready. The pay is not always the best, but the rewards are endless. I can tell you, as an educator, I've never gone hungry a single day,
Yeah.
Pastor Hamilton.
Yeah.
So there are some benefits and rewards, and I would say, think about where you want to go. Think about building capacity in yourself and others. Think about furthering your education, which means maybe going back and get a master's degree, maybe going
Mm.
back and get a doctorate degree, so that you can build capacity in others through your teaching and learning as well.
Wow, that's profound. That is
Mhm.
profound. I like you said, it's got to be in your heart. And as
Yes.
you talking about you never going hard. Think about David. He said,
Yeah.
I've been young now. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed
Yes.
begging bread." That is so
Yes.
true. Speak to the parents, because
Yes.
there are parents who, regardless of what part of town they live in, they
Hmm.
want their children to get the best education possible.
Hmm.
But sometimes the parents or the grandparents, who the guardian may be, they feel a little challenged themselves. They didn't do
Correct.
well in science or mathematics. They didn't do well in language. They didn't. They still are not good at conjugating a verb.
Right.
So with that, if you're speaking to the parents, what encouragement will you give to the parents right now and try to help
And
the educate their children?
so glad you should ask that, Pastor Hamilton, because right now we learned in 2020 that our classrooms our kitchen tables turned into the classrooms. And
Mm.
so many of our parents were not prepared. They were prepared for, okay, my kids are here. I know I have to feed them. You know, my bills are increasing. I can tell you that many of our parents were very stressed with that. However, they love their children. They want to keep them safe. But I would encourage parents to, whenever the schools are having some type of parent involvement activities where you
Mm.
can learn about technology, learn about math, learn how to help your children with homework. I encourage parents to make time in their schedules to go and get that additional support so that you would be able to help your child. Also, when the teacher calls and please don't hang up.
Yeah,
Please make
yeah, yeah,
sure,
yeah.
maybe because we hear that they're not answering or they're upset with me, and many of our teachers can get discouraged. But we're calling. We want to make sure that the relationship between the teachers and parents. We want to do what's best for the kids together. And
Mm.
so we don't want to have like a tug of war, so to speak. We want to make sure that cohesively we're working together as a unit, because what's most important is the education of our children.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the partnership that you were talking about.
Correct.
and
Correct.
and and you're saying that there could be some help for the parents or the guardians, the
Of
grandparents,
course.
to help navigate these works. I think a lot of times that's the challenge. Sometimes the parents, they didn't do well in school themselves, and so they more or less just kind of leave the child to themselves, figure it out on your own. In reality, there needs to be some encouragement, some assistance, and of course, you say there are resources available to help the parents, and also just networking. I think that's where
Right.
the church comes in, the community comes in, because everybody's smart at something.
Correct.
So, yeah, some subject matter is so
And,
important.
and you know what, Pastor Hamilton, I just don't want parents to feel embarrassed that they
Yeah.
cannot help. We don't want them to feel like they don't have any hope, because that's what the schools are there for, to encourage and support and build our communities and our whole. I think in the Houston area, um, with Houston ISD being one of the largest urban school districts in the nation, our goal is to make sure that collectively, that we are doing the part for all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, yeah. Principal Moore, can you speak just for a moment about that? Are children still able to get a good quality education that can lead them into college, grad school, doctorate programs, and the list goes on, through the medium of a public education?
Yes, and let me just say this: there's been a misconception that public school is not the way to go. But I was a public school student, Pastor Hamilton, from kindergarten all the way up. I was able to be successful in college and beyond. So public school has some of the best teachers I've ever seen, especially here in Houston ISD. We have a program called Achieve 180, of which our school is also a member of the Achieve 180 family, where underserved schools get additional resources and funding to be able to teach our children in the best possible way. And some of the best teachers come out of those schools who are quote
Hmm.
unquote struggling. We give that extra push, that additional support, intervention, tutorials. And so we want everyone to restore their faith in public schools.
Yeah.
We know that we have competition now with charter school settings, but let me tell you, as an educator, for me, I want everybody to just go to school, whether it's
Yeah. Yeah.
public school or
Right.
charter
Right.
school,
Right.
because we see now that even with the pandemic, we've lost contact, we've lost students, we don't know where they are, and so our goal is to get
Hmm.
everybody back in school.
Amen. 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 Because you got to be able to read, you got to be able to
Yes,
write, you got to be able to
yes,
navigate, you got to be able to think and critical think and all that. That the education is so important, because what I hear now from a lot of people, well, it doesn't really matter. It will
hmm,
always matter,
yes,
especially for us as people of color. It will
yes,
always be a necessity for us. Always. That is awesome. Now, the last point, Principal, you have
Yes.
been great. There are some children who are going to watch. There's some parents going to show this to their children.
Mhm.
What word would you speak to the children about the power of education and why they should give their all to the educational process?
That is a heavy, heavy question, Pastor Hamilton, because as an educator, like, just hearing you ask me that question and thinking about the children kind of brings tears to my eyes, because I know right now that some of our students, many of our students feel as if they have no hope. They
Yeah.
contemplate dropping out. But if I could tell you anything, um, get to school, finish school. There are people in that building, those campuses, that love you and want to see the best for you. We don't let them fall. Pastor Hamilton, I tell our children all the time, especially those students, if I can speak to the athletes right now,
Yeah.
academics comes before athletics in the dictionary. And so you got to
Mm.
put your education first, because if you can't read, if you can't pass, you can't play. No
Yeah.
matter how gifted you are on a basketball court or football field, whatever it is, if you don't have that education to fall back on, it's going to be a tough road for you. And so I encourage all students everywhere, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to say, I don't understand, because we are here willing and able to give it our all so that you could be successful.
Hey, man, I never heard it stated for academics coming for athletics. That is so
Yes.
true. You're speaking to an
Mhm.
old athlete a long
Yeah.
time ago. And, and,
Yes.
and, and honestly, I saw the horror stories of
Mhm.
individuals who were never taught to read, never taught to write, but they had great talent. And
Yes.
so they just kind of socially promoted them. But
Right.
but but after the 12th grade, the reality set in.
Mhm.
And you saw the hopelessness and the despair. And it was wrong for those educators not to educate them, as well as it was wrong for the parent not to be
Right.
aware that Johnny or Johnette couldn't read, couldn't write. And so you are so right on the money with that, is that in spite of that, press your way through. Amen. Because your demographics does not have to be your destiny.
Correct.
God's able to move you beyond that. I am so excited to be talking to you and just what you're doing and how enthusiastic you are
Yes.
about doing it and the difference you're making. I have heard your name. I was told about you.
Yes.
And that's the reason why I came looking for you. So I
Yes,
want to
sir.
just thank you oh so much. I want to give you the last word. I
Yes.
want to give you the last word concerning what you're looking forward to in this 2021 school year. You got the last word.
Well, I am looking forward to the students coming back. That's been the most excitement for me. I am excited to know that the classrooms are not bare anymore. They were bare for quite a while, with a few students there, but I'm looking more to see our students getting the whole school experience back,
Yeah.
where they can perform in fine arts, where they can participate in academic competitions, all of those things that encompass the educational process. I'm excited about the new school year that's coming. We've already been in trainings and workshops to make sure that we hit the ground running in August when school starts again.
Amen. Amen. Well, Kitchen Table family, you have heard it from Principal Moore, and she's been so gracious to grace us with her time. She's excited about educating your
Yes.
children, our children, wherever you may be in the city, state, the world right now. You've got a child or grandchild or great grandchild who needs to get into the education, is going back to school. And this is a template of how it can work at school as well as at home. So I encourage you
Yes.
to share this. And also, we're going to pray for you, Sister Moore. We're going to pray for what you're doing,
Yes.
because you're doing a great work. You know, you're kind of like Nehemiah. You're on a wall. You're building something.
Yes.
And don't come
Absolutely.
down. Don't come down.
Yes.
Stay where you are. Tell your family, tell your friends that what you heard today at the kitchen table, share it with someone. And I'll see you next Friday right here at the kitchen table. Have a great day.